right, so I'll kick things off and then we can kind of do a quick introduction. So my name is Jared Deck, Deputy Director for the Tahoe Engineering Division. And recently took over the program from Rebecca Tabor, Zario, some of the folks who were working on this before. We kind of have a new team working this, so we're hopefully to do some introductions here shortly. But really, the point of the stakeholder meeting is to kind of continue our efforts to build overall a good parking management program. We want to serve the community and offer an opportunity like these to give a project update, as well as receive input from the public as well to help kind of refine this program as we're moving forward. The value that we've had before was just getting the insight from you guys and kind of incorporating into the project as we move forward. And we really want to continue doing that. And I think we have two more opportunities coming up. I think Jennifer will update those dates at the end of the slides here for additional opportunities for feedback as the program moves forward past the summer into the fall time. Really, our goals have kind of remained the same. We're really looking to improve and reduce congestion for residents. We're encouraging alternative transportation for visitors, and then also just improving parking access for our local businesses. So hoping to have that turnover as we're moving through this program and having additional folks be able to visit those businesses versus folks just parking directly in front of them all day long, not having that turnover. So with that, I'll kind of turn things over to staff. We'll do some introductions first. I'll turn it over to Mandy first. Mandy, if you want to introduce and then kick it to Keith.
Hi, I'm Mandy Velasquez. I'm the admin assistant for the DPW's head office. Keith, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Keith. With me is Sky. We're your parking enforcement officers. Work.
And maybe pass along to the Dixon team, Jennifer or Julie.
Great. Thank you so much. It's nice to see so many familiar names. My name is Julie Dixon. I'm joined by my colleague Jennifer, and we are the parking consultants who have been working with Placer County on this project in Kings Beach now for a couple of years, and we're really pleased to be able to provide this update to you all tonight. Is it okay, Jared, to go ahead and get started then?
Yep, sounds good. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. So what I have prepared today, the team has prepared, forgive me, is a brief presentation. Again, Jennifer will be minding the chat. So if anybody wants to post any questions in the chat, please feel free to throughout the process here. And then we'll have some time here at the end to answer any questions. But our hope tonight was to really give you an update as to where the project is, what it's looking like, and also some additional discussion about residential parking permits. We know that that's something that has been expressed and some interest in that. So we definitely want to talk about those next steps and what's involved with that as well. And so what I'll do here is I'll jump into a very brief presentation and then we'll definitely open it up for questions. I will also ask Jennifer to post into the chat our project email address as well, so that if there's ever questions that should come up, we've gotten a pretty steady stream of communications over this last year plus, and really appreciate the engagement. Because as Jared mentioned, what's really important as we talk about parking management in Kings Beach is to be as engaged and involved as possible. And one of the things I know that many community members have expressed in the past is, why can't we move faster? And the reality is we're basically working at the pace that the county has the resources to support, and we're excited about what is to come. And so tonight's meeting will just be, again, a brief introduction, as you heard from staff, give you a few project updates, and then talk really tonight about residential permit parking and what that could mean and what that could look like for the community. And then we'll turn it into the questions and answers. For those of you who this might be your first time here hearing about parking management in Kings Beach, Dixon Resources, we responded to a competitive request for proposal with the county, and we have been supporting the county on the efforts as it relates to parking management, specifically in Kings Beach. But we also have a very unique resume in the fact that we support many of the parking management projects throughout the Tahoe Basin, and including Reno, Nevada, and have basically been helping kind of move the needle as we talk about parking and transportation mobility needs for the entire region, and something we're excited in terms of the progress that we've made in Kings Beach. So we do appreciate again this opportunity to talk first about our program updates. So many of you might recall last year we launched the pilot in the Christmas tree lot, and this year we expanded to include the brook lots. We also introduced some additional parking management on Brook Avenue as well. And this program continues, and you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, we also this year introduced a short-term hourly rate. That was one of the bits of we had from the community, that we have the all-day flat rate in the parking lots, but we also introduced the opportunity for those that were maybe looking for a quick parking spot to go grab an ice cream cone or pick up a food delivery or a purchase. And so that was something that was really important that we introduced. And we also have the holiday flat rate, which applies especially on the 4th of July holiday as well. One of the things that many of you who've been following the project know that last year was really about education and outreach. And while we do continue to promote that outreach and messaging, we have also introduced a level of balanced enforcement when it comes to ensuring that the policies are enforced. That was a bit of the feedback that we also had from the community last year, was like, let's get this program moving. And so we did also introduce in January of this year, we installed our license plate recognition technology, what's also called LPR, so that it makes it easier, more efficient for us to not only enforce the rules, but to also continue to collect data, because we want to continue to ensure that the community is making data-driven decisions as it relates to county policies. But although I know that you got to hear from Keith, many of you were very familiar with Zario, who used to help manage our on-street program and helped coordinate all of the enforcement. But I thought I would pause here and see if Keith wanted to just unmute himself and just take another moment besides the introduction that we just had, and maybe let, for those of you who haven't met Keith yet, get to know Keith and a little bit about his role with the county, and be able to share with you for those who haven't met him yet. Keith, did you want to just take a minute and maybe talk a little about some of the on-the-job experience or anything that you wanted to share with our attendees today?
Thank you, Julie. Again, my name is Keith. I'm a full-time parking enforcement officer. With me is Sky. She's a seasonal parking enforcement officer. I'm not new to the parking world. I've done it for 6 seasons in the winter program. I'm just new to the summer program. So basically what our day looks like is throughout each week, we patrol the community doing data collection to see where people are parking, how long they're parking. We enforce the parking lots, we enforce the residential neighborhood, and we enforce parking on State Route 28, North Lake Boulevard. One of the things we do too that the public's not really probably aware of is we're going around and we're cleaning up vehicles parked and stored on the sides of the road, shoulders, taking up parking. And that's important because it increases available parking and it cleans up the community. And we've aggressively been doing that this summer, and we've been successful at it. We interact with people throughout the community, assist them finding places to park, answering tourist questions. And one of the major impacts that you'll see with a parking enforcement program is it kind of cleans up the parking. Instead of the parking being out of control, there is a noticeable difference when you're roaming the streets, that things are tidier. People are following more rules. They're not parking in front of driveways. There's just more order in respect to the parking program, the impact on the community. And so basically that's our job each day, is just to patrol, enforce, and interact with the community and try and keep things nice and organized and create a pleasant environment for the community as well as the visitors. And we're pretty successful at it. We have a good relationship with the majority of the customers we interact with. Our goal is to educate, not to fine people. We only fine people when absolutely necessary. So that's my summary, and I'll turn it back to you, Julie.
Thank you so much, Keith. I really just want to highlight a couple of things that Keith shared there too. The feedback, especially with the vehicle abatement, was something that was direct from the community. So it really makes me proud to be able to hear what Keith just shared, because it really is having that impact. And as you heard him really close with, it's not about writing tickets. We really are trying to ensure that we have access to our businesses and to our commercial parking locations. And we also, that's one of the reasons why tonight we wanted to be sure to talk about residential parking, because we know this obviously has an impact to many of you and where you live. But before I get to that, there was one other thing I just wanted to be sure that if you didn't come to the last community meeting, not only the Brooks Avenue changes that I mentioned, if you've been on Brooks Avenue, you maybe have noticed the new markings that are on the roadway. I was really excited the last time I was in Kings Beach. We were there when they were actually marking the street. And yes, I am a total parking geek and got excited to see them actually out there with the white paint making the markings. But the other thing that I was excited about, and again, it's the little things in life, it is the improvement on parking wayfinding signage. That was one of the things that a lot of folks had shared, was that it was difficult to know where the parking resources are. And so that was something that you hopefully have noticed, the coordination of the improved signage, especially throughout the corridor. And this was something as well that the county had to work very closely with Caltrans, because we are on a state route. So to be able to get all of that infrastructure installed was actually quite a heavy lift. But really pleased with the efforts that the county has been able to make, because we really are seeing incremental improvements. And that's why when you hear Keith talking about that MO and the modus operandi for how they're really tackling this balanced approach towards access and equitability, it's really about making those changes. One of the most important bits of feedback that we've heard from the community is how much they want to ensure that they have alternative payment options at our locations where we have paid parking. And so we are very, very close to launching our mobile payment options that include mobile pay that you can pay by phone, but also you have the opportunity to text to pay, which is another convenience. This example on the right side is a picture of the actual sign that we will be utilizing that will be posted in the parking lots. And please rest assured, when we are ready to turn this feature on, we will blast it out onto the community. We'll make sure there's a press release and as much advertisements that are out there, but also we'll be sure the signage is there. I always like to reinforce, only because I'm a parking professional, when we utilize QR codes, it's very important that folks are looking at the QR codes carefully. There are some things that have happened throughout the United States where folks have put up bogus QR codes, but so always be very safe and be assured. And it's something that the county team will also quality check and validate those QR codes on a frequent basis. We are also looking at introducing some additional language translations on the pay stations too. And the county's also in the progress of hiring a parking program manager as well, because as this program grows and expands, it will be an important impact. So what you see here in front of you, again, some of you have been coming to these meetings since we launched. Data is really important when we talk about the utilization and occupancy throughout the community. And one of the things that I would like to highlight here is that this is the aggregate of the data that we've collected basically over the last 2 years. And this demonstrates the average occupancy by block face. The reason why these numbers are really important, and the reason why you see that 85% highlighted there in a bit of a yellow, sorry, a bit of a reddish orange color, is that when you hit 85% occupancy, it's when the county needs to start to make parking management decisions. But one of the things that I always like to highlight is when you see this kind of rainbow of colors, it's actually a demonstration of a pretty well balanced program. And so while you do have very impacted, very specific streets, when they're surrounded by the other colors of the legend here in the bottom left corner, it demonstrates that there's parking available within a block or two, typically, of people's destinations. And so this is something that is an important measure as we talk about managing the program moving forward. And this is something that we're utilizing the license plate recognition technology, not only to help with the enforcement, but also to help with the data aggregation so that we can monitor the occupancy and utilization of the cars. Now, one of the things that we really wanted to talk about tonight was residential permit parking. When we launched the pilot program, we knew that there was going to be the impact that was already occurring with a lot of our recreational users parking in our residential neighborhoods. So one of the things that the Placer County Code is readied for is the opportunity for the neighborhood to request a parking permit program. What's really important about a residential parking permit program is that the community needs to want for this permit program. And so what you see here on this first line that's outlined in the county code is the interest in basically establishing a program. And that's typically a petitioning process when you have 51% of the neighborhood expressing an interest in the residential parking permit program. That then generates steps to move forward with this. It's important to understand that it's important that you have a majority of the neighborhood expressing an interest in a residential parking permit program, because while a residential parking permit program can bring a lot of benefits and a lot of ease for your access to the curb, it also can be somewhat restrictive in the terms of the number of permits that you have available to. It can impact your ability to have events or parties at your house. Not that they aren't already impacted by, the popularity of folks parking there for recreational use as well. One of the things that you typically do in a residential parking permit program is once you have submitted that majority request for the petition to ask for a residential parking permit program, then this is when the process really begins, where you can go out and you can evaluate the impacts, where you basically go out and look at the data that we've been collecting to determine that the zone consistently has an occupancy of 70% or higher. And then you basically look to introduce the resolution to the county board that would implement whatever restrictions there are. We were talking with the county team before the meeting started, and what would be a really interesting design of a program, especially throughout the Kings Beach area, because you have three very unique configurations. You have residential, commercial, and recreational use all in one. And so something that I would anticipate could be an interesting design for this program would be the potential, if the community was interested in a residential parking permit program, or something we also call RPP, you could end up with a time limit in the residential zone, which could maybe be 2 hours, that has a permit exemption. So basically, if I lived in the neighborhood, I would qualify to purchase a parking permit, and it would make me exempt from those residential streets that would also potentially have a time limit that would not only support commercial access to the businesses, but also for those that chose to park in that neighborhood to go maybe to the lake, they would have a 2 hour time restriction, for example. So it's just an idea of maybe a way that the program could potentially be designed. Again, a lot of this is driven by the community need and the want for a program, because again, once you go through that process and let's just say everything goes through, the resolution is improved, then what happens is that residents have a time frame to purchase said parking permits before the program basically goes live. And in this case, basically, we're looking at 60% or more of the households in the permit zone would have to purchase a parking permit. If not, there would be no residential parking permit program. Now, I know this sounds like a heavy lift, very complicated, but it actually is quite simple when you think about the opportunity and that opportunity to basically proceed forward with being able to launch that and being able to address what that solution is. But again, looking at this from a bigger picture standpoint, it could also be seasonal. I think that's important to recognize. Kind of like with our winter parking restrictions, this could also be a restriction that would be only applicable during the spring and summer months, for example. But those are some of the options when we start to talk about a residential parking permit program. And so what you see here on the right side and up here on the top side of the screen is a great example of a neighborhood that has a time restriction during certain days of the week, in their case, Monday through Friday. I would anticipate that if this was something that was of interest in your neighborhood, that it would likely be a 7-day-a-week program. And again, the hours can vary. It could maybe be more early morning to early afternoon, and that basically residents that qualified would be able to purchase a parking permit, and that would be exempt from that posted time limit. And so it's important to also recognize that there's a whole variety of different residential parking permit programs. Many of you who maybe have lived in other areas might be familiar with towns that have no overnight parking restrictions. That's very commonplace in a lot of communities. But I think especially for what the impact is and what I would anticipate the desire is, we would likely see a daytime exemption if that was something that was of interest. But this is really where, when we start to talk about the interest level and customizing that solution, ultimately what that could ultimately look like. It's important to recognize when we do talk about a residential parking permit program, there are certain vehicles that are not allowed to purchase a parking permit. That includes trailers, recreational vehicles, commercial vehicles, and the like. And something when we talk about a program like this too is being able to have guest permits, like I mentioned, and in some cases, special event permits, because typically a program would limit the number of guest passes that you have that are eligible by day. And the virtual parking permit system basically makes everything license plate based so that we can basically enforce it utilizing the license plate recognition technology. And overall, the customization of a program like this would be very specific to your neighborhood, but there's nothing but opportunity when we talk about basically how this could proceed forward. So we're about to move into the open QA, but I'm going to pause for a moment before I get to this next slide, and I'm going to ask Jennifer to tell me what's been happening in the chat. But before I move to that stage, I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. Your feedback is critical to this program, and I hope those of you who have been involved in this program and process can understand we are adapting and modifying as we go. And a lot of the adjustments and a lot of the enhancements have come as a direct result of your feedback. And so I just wanted to highlight on the right side of the screen, you can see that we have two different QR codes. One that'll take you to the county website where we keep all of our updates about this project located there. And you're also welcome to scan this or utilize the Engage Placer site to be able to keep us posted of your feedback, because again, very important, your critique to keep us going. And then I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that I'm sure Jennifer put this in the chat, and I'm also going to ask her to post these dates, is that continuing to keep you apprised of our progress is critical. And so we already have our next two meetings scheduled. And so if you'll just take note, Tuesday, September 23rd, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., and Tuesday, December 2nd, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. You can find this information, the same location that you found out about this meeting. We'll be sure to send out information blasts and make sure this is all stored on the county website as well. But I wanted to be sure that everybody had this information as well. And what I'll do is I'm going to leave this on screen, and I'm going to pause here and ask if Jennifer can get me apprised of what's been going on in the chat, because I have not had a time to look at it while I was presenting. Jennifer, what do we have going on?
Certainly. So we have a couple of comments. I'll just kind of run them through chronological order. The first comment in question came from Anne. It is, she is asking, or she's saying, all of Brockway Vista Avenue is completely parked. What are you doing about the induced demand on Speedboat and Harbor Avenue from paid parking in Kings Beach? And I believe Keith would be the best person to help us address that.
Well, before I go over to Keith, I can definitely speak to Speedway, because that's actually where I ran into Keith in the field when I was in Kings Beach. And I can tell you that they are proactively ensuring that the loading and drop-off zones are managed proactively. But Keith, would you like to unmute yourself and speak to the question and feedback about any other actions that you are taking?
Yes. I personally don't think that we only have two paid parking lots currently in Kings Beach right now, and those two parking lots are not driving people to Speedboat. But we patrol Speedboat every day. It's one of the most popular beaches around here, and it has very limited parking. So we're in Speedboat 6 to 8 times a day, working with people, guiding traffic, writing citations. It's the unfortunate reality is it's a beautiful beach with very limited parking.
Great. And are you having any results, or have you seen the effectiveness? I said, I know I was there in regards to keeping that pickup and drop off zone clear. Any feedback on that, Keith?
Yeah, well, just the presence of us being out there deters people from parking. Having a presence is significant. So when we're down there with our vehicles, people come up, they'll just walk right up to us and ask us where they can go. They know what we're doing there. They see the Placer County sign. So we routinely patrol there every day to ensure it doesn't get out of control for a lot of reasons. One, we don't want to have, it impacting the residents, and two, it's a safety hazard. If you let it get out of control in there, it turns into a one-lane road, and if there's a fire, whatever event, it could be an issue. But we've got a good handle on it. I mean, they're narrow roads next to a very popular beach, so it gets parked out every day that the weather's nice. Like today, there was nobody there today, and the loading zone, we're staying. If people abuse it, we ticket them, and we try to just work with people. I mean, we're getting people, guiding them in and out of there, so it's being managed.
Great. No, thank you, Keith. I appreciate that. And we've had some really great questions about the petitioning process. But before I tackle that, there's a question about how much could a permit cost? And I will share with you, it's very important. Proposition, I think it's 26, forgive me, thank you, Jennifer. Proposition 26 is actually really important to all of you because basically, a residential parking permit can't be just considered another tax. It's very important that it has to be priced in a way that it's basically a sustainable solution that pays for itself. And I will tell you that residential parking permit fees do vary throughout California, but the intention truly is to just cover the cost of the operation of the program. And I've seen permit prices vary from $20 annually to $50 annually. And I've seen everywhere in between. Probably the highest one I've seen in the state of California is about $55 a year. But again, the goal is to cost this out so that it's really about just covering the cost of the administration and operation of the program. And so it's really important to recognize the fact that this is not intended to be a money grab by any means. It really is intended to just cover the cost. And if I can reinforce, I think that's something that's really important when we talk about parking management in Kings Beach as a whole, is that right now it's really about access, equitability, creating those vehicle transitions. And that's really why you see these incremental changes kind of coming through, is to really be able to make these adjustments and to make these accommodations as we evaluate moving forward. So while no price has been determined yet, what I would anticipate is that range in there, and that is an cost typically by most agencies. And it's really an important one to, again, just cover the operation administration of the program. There was another really great question about basically how many blocks need to be included in this process, and can I just petition my one block? And the reality is it be the neighborhood. And I'm going to look to Jennifer, if you wouldn't mind, Jennifer, to speak to what's included in the code so that we can really speak specifically to this, and then we can talk about what that looks like in Kings Beach.
Yeah, so one of the things that the county did earlier this year was establish that permit parking code. And typically for a permit parking program, there are a long list of policies, business rules, and things to essentially cover what that program looks like. It includes rules such as what the permit fees will cost, how many blocks need to be petitioned in the same process together. So all of the codes that we do have right now, that is a starting base for the county to be able to develop and administer the program further. So we don't have a concrete answer right now of how many streets or how many blocks need to petition together. That is something that we will be able to work with the first set of petitions or work with the county continuously to develop moving forward.
And I will share that in other communities, one of the lines of kind of rules of thumb was 4 contiguous blocks. Some of that is geographically impacted that I think is important to recognize. So something that when you do express that interest is the more that you can bring forward, the better, because the reality of that squeeze the balloon theory that many of us have talked about is that if you implement a policy on 1 or 2 blocks, the challenge tends to spill over into other streets. So the opportunity to bring those adjacent blocks forward is definitely the intention. And we would really appreciate the more, the better when we talk about how to manage those needs moving forward as well. I also see a question posted. I'm assuming the purchase permits are just for curbside parking on street. That is correct, not on private property. One of the things that we've talked about in previous meetings was the potential of shared parking, which is something where being able to potentially identify private property locations where we might be able to authorize permitted parking. That is not a part of the solution yet. But if someone has a piece of property that you might have an interest in being able to introduce permit parking, we're always happy to talk about people that have parking assets. I also see a question in the chat about keeping cars from parking on the sidewalk. And I know I will speak for Keith here that that is definitely an important priority on the enforcement side of things. And for them to try to be able to ensure that we have access on our sidewalks. Now, one of the unique things, and I think that the county's really made a really valiant attempt to be sure that your parking spaces on street are marked. We do have several locations where they have the pervious pavement, which are legitimate parking spaces, and that could possibly cause some confusion for visitors that are not familiar with the area. And that's one of the reasons why the county has gone out and tried to mark those spaces. Keith, was there anything you wanted to add about sidewalk enforcement or anything that you wanted to speak to about that?
Yes. Okay, this is only the second year you've had a parking enforcement program, a summer parking enforcement program. So we are starting to enforce the no parking on sidewalks. The sheriff's office and CHP they currently are doing the same thing. So when it's busy, like this last weekend, CHP's roaming, they have officers roaming the grid, roaming the highway, dealing with parking issues all day long. They towed 2 cars out of Kings Beach this weekend for parking violations because they're impeding the roadway. So they're out there doing their job. The sheriff's office is writing tickets. So the saturation point of enforcement is pretty high. You have the sheriff's office, the highway patrol, and you have the county parking enforcement officers. And over time, people will learn to not park on the side. It was never enforced in Kings Beach. Now we're starting to enforce it, just like everything else. It's a learning curve. They'll start to comply.
Thank you for that, Keith. I do appreciate that and definitely agree with you. That's another reason why we've really focused on education and outreach as well, so that folks can understand that this is an authentic, real program, and it really comes down to consistency. So I see another comment that was posted. We have a guy renting kayaks on Harbor Avenue, which creates more traffic and confusion in the area. How is this permissible with parking? Richie, I'm going to take note of that question and I'm going to we'll take note and work with county staff. And I don't have an answer for you today on that one, but we will definitely take note of this and do some follow-up and see if we can get to the bottom of that one and see how we can address that as well. And please don't hesitate if you'd like to submit a comment via Engage Placer. We definitely can coordinate that follow-up with you as well. So I appreciate that one. And then is there anyone in particular with whom to direct the application and to ask specific questions to? Mandy, I am going to suggest, if it's okay with you, that we will direct them to the county office, if that's okay.
Of course.
And so I'm going to ask if it's okay with you, if there is a preferred email address that we should use on the county side when it comes to this, or if you'd prefer for the emails to come into PC at Dixon, what would be your preference?
They can actually go to the parking enforcement email, which is ntparking@placer.ca.gov, and I'll put that in the chat.
Perfect. So that'll be a great way to follow up and anybody that has very specific questions. We also had the concern posted about property neighborhood and the property is rented. How do we reach homeowners and can renters sign the petition? So in most agencies, they actually allow both the property owner and the tenants the opportunity to have a vote in the process. And so my suggestion to community members who are soliciting petitions is to actually try to ascertain approvals from both and to also encourage any tenants to reach out to their property owners to participate in the program because it's obviously in everyone's interest to have everybody aligned with the direction that we're going in. I also see a comment from Jennifer John about vehicles parking in front of stop signs and fire hydrants. I will take this moment to reinforce not only public safety concerns about fire safety, and making sure that that is enforced, which I know Keith and team are out there with other law enforcement resources. But I also wanted to make sure, talking about daylighting, many of you are hopefully familiar with the legislation that went into effect January 1 of this year, that you cannot park within 20 feet of the approach to an intersection. It's actually a violation of the daylighting rules, and it does not require a sign, nor does it require red paint. And so that is something that many communities are enforcing through warnings and education as well, just because it is new legislation that not many are familiar with. But I did want to highlight not only blocking intersections, but also blocking the approaches to intersections, and just wanted to make sure that everybody has that on their radar. And so the next thing I see is why can't I'm assuming 2 million you say you will receive from parking pay for residential parking permits. So again, the opportunity to administer the residential parking program, it is something when we talk about accessibility, it's important to recognize that there is a value for every parking space, whether in neighborhoods or whether in commercial or recreational areas. So the intention here is to create a cost sustainable solution. And right now, the program is intended to pay for itself. And so that is the intention and the direction that the county board has taken. I'm just going to take a breath here and see the next question that I see posted is, what is the current plan for lesser used lots going forward? I'm seeing references to low usage in several lots. There's lots, these lots are still abused all year. Yesterday, I watched several vehicles being used for day camping. The driver spent much of their day in one of the lots, sitting in or near their vehicles. One left a trash can, another dump. Sorry, my mouse is not moving. Dumped box is still there today. And I do not hear this program discussing much about the abuse that happens here still regularly. Also, some locals that may qualify for the residential parking permit may also use the lot as a place to party or loiter. So for lower usage lots, will strategies be used to create less of an invitation for loitering and abuse? So yes, the intention is to continue to monitor the other parking lots, and this is where we were talking about incremental growth. And so I would anticipate and hope that the program will also expand to those other locations as we proceed forward with the program. And as you heard Keith describe on the vehicle abatement program, we are doing our best to try to get those stagnant vehicles out of the region and out of the area. And right now, it really comes through high visibility and being able to have that presence. But do again, please use the Engage Placer website as well to feedback and instances. And if you see anything that's a public safety risk, please do not hesitate to report those issues out as well. And then the next question is, can we have more discussion about Brook Avenue, specifically what will be designated as 15-minute versus 2-hour versus no time limit? It's very arbitrary currently, and I think there is room for improvement to help local businesses. And Jennifer, only because I don't have the slide from the last presentation, would you mind to just share with everybody the kind of conceptual design of what is set up for Brook and what the intention is summer season versus winter season, please?
Julie, could you check if you might have a next slide? I think we added the Brook Avenue changes as an appendix slide.
Oh, you see, they just anticipated this question. So Jennifer, why don't you go ahead while I take a sip of water here if you want to walk everybody through the design.
Sure. So there are essentially two 15-minute loading zones are established. They are the orange hashed items on the map there. And then year-round, there is a 2-hour time limit on the south side of Brook Avenue. So that is marked by the green shape. And then for the summer only, there is a 2-hour time limit on the north side. So that's all the remaining other spaces you see marked in the blue shape.
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer, for anticipating that question. I appreciate that. And let me go back here to the previous slide so that way we have that information. And let me bring the chat back onto the screen. And let's see, I think there's some more comments coming in here. And the next one was akin to the daylighting rule. What is the code with respect to parking in front of aprons and driveways? We are on an 85% or more occupancy street with regular parking, making access to properties is difficult. If you have someone impeding your driveway, please do not hesitate to reach out for county resources in the hopes of somebody to come out there and enforce. It is a violation of the vehicle code to block access to a driveway. And the having consistent enforcement resources is something that we want to obviously have available to you all. And so I will say that there is a level of discretion, which is a challenge often, and oftentimes in not just in your neighborhoods, but throughout California, folks park as close as possible to try to squeeze their vehicles in. But if it is impeding your access, please do not hesitate to call, and we will do our best to respond and enforce. And I see that Heather also responded, yes, we have difficulty getting in and out of our property due to so many cars being parked. And then scrolling through here, will there be paid parking in front of Ace Hardware? Jennifer, did you want to speak to that? Because I don't think we currently have that forecasted in the current design, but did you want to go ahead and speak to that one?
I don't have a direction right now. I don't know if anyone from the county wants to step in. Well, let's take a closer look at the map.
Jared, I think that right now that's on street. So my suggestion would be we do not have plans for on-street paid parking unless you wanted to describe something differently.
Are we still talking about the block driveways or the next
No, this
one?
is the will there be paid parking in front of Ace Hardware?
Yeah, we haven't reached that point yet, so I don't think we have an answer to that question.
Yeah, perfect. But we will put it on our list and we'll be sure to see if we can tackle some additional research on that one as well. So we've been doing a lot in the chat. I did want to provide anyone the opportunity. I think we're caught up on the chat. Jennifer, did we do a good job of addressing all of the comments in the chat? Did I miss any?
I believe that everything has been addressed in the chat so far.
So I just wanted to then, oh, go ahead, Jennifer, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say if anyone put something in the chat that we've missed, please feel free to ask it again. Or I think Julie's meant to mention the way you can ask the
Yeah.
question.
If anybody wanted to ask a question aloud, number one, you can raise your hand and we can unmute you. And if there is on the bottom of your screen, you'll see a react button and there's an opportunity there to raise your hand. You also could come on camera and I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I want to be able to see all of you. I just wanted to reiterate, and we'll put this in the chat again, the next two community meetings, September 23rd and December 2nd. I just wanted to again reiterate the Engage Placer website and also finding updates about the project on the county website. And then again, our project email address. And I see our first hand raised. If you'll just bear with me 1 second here, because I want to be able to see those hands. So Raul, if you could unmute yourself.
Yes, hi, thank you. And I'm going to leave my video off because I'm in a bad reception area, so I apologize. But I was the one that brought up the question about Brook Avenue, and thank you for showing the slides. I guess my question was geared more towards, is there any data that would guide how we could potentially make things better. So I own La Mexicana, which is the market on the north side of Brook Avenue, and a lot of I mean, I appreciate the fact that we didn't eliminate parking in the peak summer season. So I think that was great. But there's very limited, like 15-minute areas. That's why I was saying it's kind of arbitrary. I would like to see more of those 15-minute areas, because I think a lot, myself and a lot of businesses, that's probably what a customer really needs.
Yep.
Whereas a 2 hour tends to attract maybe more beach people. So I just think it would be there could be a nicer mix to that street. And so I was just wondering if there was going to be any data or just community input to be able to drive those kind of changes.
Well, we get the community feedback right now from you. So we really appreciate that bit of feedback. Very familiar with the area that you're describing, and it seems very reasonable. So let us take note of that, and we'll coordinate with county staff and go out there and take a look at that. It is something, especially when we even talk about on the state route. It was a part of the dialogue we had with Caltrans too, was being able to have more short-term pickup and drop-off points for folks to be able to run in and pick something up as well. So we'll definitely take a look at that. And if it's okay, we'd love to follow up with you as well, so that we can also have some more dialogue with you too. Great. And I think he actually muted himself. So thank you for that feedback, but we will take that note and look at the opportunity for that. Is there anyone else that wanted to raise their hand and have the opportunity to provide any other input or questions? Oh, I see Tom. Tom, just give me 1 second. Let me find you here. Thank you for having your camera on and going traditional. If you want to go ahead and try to unmute yourself, Tom, and let's see if that works. It should be in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen where the little audio mic is. If you click on that, did that work?
Getting there.
There we go.
Thank you. It's easier when I host it than when I actually out in the audience.
I get it.
Well, thank you. Appreciate the update and the information. We live on that little stretch of Brockway Vista. We're the first home next to the public park. And we are the ones that experience, along the other 4 beachfront owners there, the tremendous pressure that's now on Brockway Vista, with only 4 parking spaces on Seacline, the adjacent road. And as that is, what I'd like to, I don't want to get into any of the specific questions and so forth, because they are specific. Simply, I was also the one that raised the question, could there be a printout or something that's emailed with the contact information that would handle various aspects, not only including an application for a permit, but other aspects, the traffic control, and who do we call when someone's halfway into our driveway and we can't get out, and all that kind of stuff.
Love it, Tom. And what I'm seeing getting put in the chat, and I'm going to ask that we'll make sure that on the parking page for Kings Beach, we'll make sure that if this information isn't already called out, we'll be sure that it's very clearly on there. We've had Mandy posting not only the parking enforcement phone number in the chat, she's also shared the weekend phone number for both Placer County Sheriff's Department as well as CHP. So that we'll have that on there. We'll make sure that that's also on the parking page. And then yours is a very reasonable request, is us maybe creating a 1-pager on the residential parking permit, I'll call it, process, and the instructions by which to process or proceed with that. So we'll make sure that there's a very easy to understand kind of informational guideline page, and we'll coordinate with staff and make sure that that also gets pushed out so everybody knows when that's on the website, so folks can access it there. So that'll hopefully help us navigate this process and help you kind of figure out, how to proceed.
Thank you. We worked quite extensively with Rebecca beforehand, and with prior people in that kind of position through the years, through the Crown Motel and all the different things that have come down the line that affecting Brockway Vista, this West End. So thank you. Appreciate your help on that.
No, thank you for coming tonight. And I'm hoping that you all can recognize the whole kind of, we didn't get to where we are overnight, and being able to resolve it and solve everything overnight. It won't happen that magically. I know I bring a magic wand to some of my meetings, but we're getting there, kind of chipping away at it. So we really appreciate everybody's patience as we navigate this process. So thank you, Tom, for participating today. We've got a couple minutes left. Did anyone else want to raise their hand? Or I'm also going to look to Jennifer. Jennifer, anything else while I've been looking at this screen? I'm going to just take a moment here to see if anybody else wanted to raise their hands. So we put a lot of information in the chat, and thank you, Heather. It really means a lot when you see that positive difference. This has been, the whole concept of it takes a village. It literally takes a community when we talk about how to really manage change. And I just really want to thank you all on behalf of the entire team. Patience is key here. And like we said, we know that, the lake's been there a long time, and many of you have lived there for a long time, and we didn't get to this challenge overnight, and being able to resolve it overnight is not going to happen. But I hope that you see the county directing the resources, working collaboratively, and really making these incremental changes. I know some folks would like for it to happen like that, but the one thing I really wanted to reinforce what Keith said, it's really about messaging. It's about getting the word out and helping people understand what the rules are. And now I know we all drive cars, we should all know what the rules are. But the reality is when you've been parking a certain way, for a really long time, getting people to change that behavior does not happen overnight. So with that, I'm going to take a moment here to just again recognize the Engage Placer website. We've got information in the chat. If you go to the Kings Beach website, we'll make sure on the parking page, just give us a day or so to go in and make sure that we've got those headers called out with the phone numbers that are listed in the chat. And then we will work on like a one pager, a really simplified kind of guideline for how to proceed with a residential parking program. And then also any information that you want to also reach out to the county office here. I know Mandy is helping kind of wrangle the cats, so to speak, and kind of keep everything on track. And again, just really want to thank everybody for coming here tonight. And I'm going to just hand the floor back over to Jared and see, Jared, if you wanted to add anything else in closing tonight.
Nothing else from me. I think we covered a lot of good topics. I'd just like to note too, is if there's specific suggestions, just sending that to the email address as well. So from folks like Raul, if you have specific suggestions on improvements, we'd like to hear that directly versus general observations. I think that's always helpful in the process. And also Tom's input as well. If you have specific suggestions on solutions, I mean, that's what we're going towards. So any improvement or suggestions along those lines would definitely be helpful.
So with that, thank you, everybody. Have a safe rest of your summer. And I hope everything stays calm and peaceful and that everybody has a great rest of your summer. And we'll look forward to talking to you in December. So thank you for coming tonight. Have a great night. Bye-bye.